Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode number 71. Today we are going to do our best attempt at once again bringing you a preview for the college football season, the 2023-2024 season. And that's basically going to be the bulk of the show. And then we might throw in some NFL wheel spins if we feel like it. We're kind of behind, obviously. Not going to finish it once again, just like last year. That's okay. We'll get as far as we can. We're just going to jump right into the college football show here. We're going to start with breaking down all the conferences. And by breaking down all the conferences, I mean we're going to break down the SEC the most because we live in SEC country. And this is the Show Me Show podcast after all. And then we are also going to kind of just give who we think is going to be in the title games for the Power Five, which this is the last year of the Power Five as well. This is also the final year of the 4-team college football playoff. So next year, there will be a whole new different system for the playoffs, how you can get in, teams that might be able to lose a game late in the season and early in the season. And there will also only be pretty much 4 power conferences next year as well. This is a interesting final season. It's really the Pac-12's goodbye, if you will, Pac-12 after dark, and all that good stuff. So, let's just get right on into the SEC, Luke. And how do you want to do this? Should we just say who we think is going to finish in the East and then the West?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, last year, how we did it was the SEC was the one conference that we broke down like all the teams how they were going to finish, and the rest of the conferences was just the championship game. I think that's what we're going to do again. So I would say we just jump into the SEC East first because that's what Mizzou is in, and also what the reigning national champions are in. So I think
Yep.
I don't know if it's the most relevant conference, but I think it's the best to start off with. And I'll let you go last since you know you're more knowledgeable on this than what I am. As I was telling Cam before the show, last year I was pretty in tune with what was going on in the college football year. This year I'm not as much. Like I'm still gonna enjoy it, but just as far as the preseason, like knowing who's on what team and what teams are good, I'm just not as in tune with it. So my predictions are, they're not really math based. They're just kind of prediction based, which is how they should be. Yeah, vibe based. Yeah, pretty much. Well, not necessarily, but I'll go first. In the first place in the SEC East, I have Georgia. Obviously, not a shock there. Second, I have South Carolina and Spencer Rattler, and Shane Beamer over there in South Carolina.
Wow, they're making a big jump, huh?
Yeah. I mean, they were solid last year. I think they got some big transfers. So, I'm a Shane Beamer believer more than I am a Spencer Rattler believer. But, sure, why not have him finish second? Third, I have the University of Missouri. Not confident on this one, but their defense is locked down. I think their defense is going to be up there with Georgia in terms of, sacks, points allowed, turnovers. I think they're going to be competing with Georgia on that type of level. Now, their offense is obviously a huge issue, and that is what's going to hold them back. But you know what? I don't think third is unrealistic. And then fourth, I have Tennessee. This is the big one. That's, I had Tennessee finishing sixth last year, and they got second. So I'm just not a Tennessee believer. But I'm that's nothing against Joe Milton. I think
that
Joe Milton
really came back to bite really quickly last year.
Oh yeah, just instantly.
They were like undefeated most of the year.
Yeah,
until they played Georgia,
Alabama. But Joe Milton, he's replacing Hendon Hooker. I think he'll be fine. He's got a rocket arm. He can run the ball a little bit, but I mean, they regressed heavy at the receiver position. They lost a ton to the NFL. I don't know how their O-line is, but I expect some regression from this team. Their over-under is 9.5 for wins. I expect them to hit the under on that, while still, being a solid competitive team. But fourth place. Fifth, I have Kentucky. They're going to regress after Will Levis leaves. Still a solid, well-coached team, but fifth. And then here's the big one. I have Vanderbilt finishing sixth ahead of Florida. Vanderbilt's they've been in the shitter for the last half decade. And I don't know, Florida is just giving me bad vibes. I'm just getting bad vibes from Florida. Their over-under total is 5.5, which might be their lowest ever. But yeah, I think Vanderbilt's gonna, spin off a few SEC wins this year. They're gonna take down some foes, and
against
I don't
who
know what
exactly?
happens, but sixth.
Who are they beating?
Man, I don't know. Who are they beating? Well, let's just look at their schedule here. All right, they play week 1 against Hawaii. I know that they're gonna win that
That's
game.
not SEC.
The funny part about
matter.
Vanderbilt is that their stadium, the stands, haven't even been built yet. They have the field built, but the stands just aren't built right now. And we're recording this on Thursday, the 17th. It's not going to come out until a few days before, August 26th, the opening day of college football. But we are recording this a little early. But, that's, what, 9 days away, and they still haven't built the stands for their stadium? That's top-tier procrastinating. Sicko level. I think they can beat Kentucky. I think they can beat Florida. And I think they'll beat Auburn. That's my 3 SEC wins. I think that's enough to finish sixth.
Yeah, I think that probably is enough to finish 5 of 6.
Right? It's not like I'm finishing third. It's just ahead of one team. So,
okay. All right, I'll do my East now. We'll do it like that instead of just doing both.
Yeah.
I'm taking Georgia 1. I think they're probably going to go undefeated in the regular season. They obviously do have to play Tennessee this year, but they play them every year. I think they're going to win. I'm going to go Georgia, and then I am next going to go with Tennessee. I think I know they lost a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, but the quarterback position is the most important position, and they have had some unreal recruiting classes lately. This pick is really going to depend on if they're developing that recruiting talent or not. I'm going to say that they will, just because the program has been on the up and up. So I'm going to have them at 2. And off my prediction sheet, I think I might have Mizzou at 3 as well, which is, I just feel, Luke, it's very bold to put Mizzou at 3. And I think South Carolina could be at 3 as well.
Oh, it is.
But I'm going to just go with Mizzou at... The problem is I haven't seen South Carolina's schedule. Let me inspect South Carolina's schedule real quick. Even though they play the same teams as Mizzou when you think about it, but
the West is a little different, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Okay. L. I have no idea what Mississippi
Texas
State
A&M
is. L.
and Mississippi State.
W.
Those are 2 winnable games out of the West.
L. W. I've got them winning 3 games, Luke, in the SEC. So I'm gonna put Mizzou at 3. I say that they're gonna win 3 games, but I'm gonna put them at 4. Kentucky at 5. I also think they just don't really have any huge players that off the top of my head, Luke. Last year they had Levis, and that was about it. But that was still enough to be a good SEC team. As you'll see later, I have Mizzou finally beating Kentucky this year at Kentucky, which has never happened since we've been in the SEC, except when our first 2 years in there with Gary Pinkel. But So it'll be the first time in a long time. Drink hasn't done it, and I don't think Barry Odom ever did it. So there's that. And then I'm gonna throw in Florida above Vanderbilt. Um, Vanderbilt I don't think
Not
really has
shocking.
enough, and Florida is gonna have at least enough athletes. And Kentucky and Florida can honestly probably flip flop pretty easily. And the thing about the SEC East, and we're just making predictions here. The thing about the SEC East is probably between 2 and 6, the positions of 2 through 6. Anybody can get to those spots probably, except for maybe Florida. I don't think they can get all the way up to 2, or Kentucky either. But South Carolina, Tennessee, Mizzou, um, they all could probably. It just depends on how you look at their ceiling and floors.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is Georgia is going to run the table again through the SEC. Their schedule is not that hard at all. They have one of the easiest schedules based off last year's FBI or RP. I can't remember what it is. So yeah. All right, let's move to the West.
Super analytical indicator. SAI, the super analytical indicator. The SEC West. Now, this is where the teams get, I would say, more competitive or maybe just more historical. I don't know. Top of the board. LSU at 1 for me. I'm a big believer in Brian Kelly. I'm a huge believer in Jane Daniels in this LSU team. And I'm just really just a believer in the LSU lore. When LSU and Death Valley's rocking, it's awesome for college football. And I think it's going to be happening again this year. Alabama at 2, obviously. It's hard to put them below 2. Ole Miss at 3. I mean, they just always seem to just win games. They're never like the best, but they're always like competitive and ranked. They're always like in the teens ranked. So them at 3. This is where it kind of gets dicey because all the rest of these teams are kind of even, but Texas A&M does have the most talent, so I did put them at 4. And then Arkansas has KJ Jefferson, so they get 5. And then after that, Auburn and Mississippi State, it really doesn't matter. I have Auburn finishing above them, but I could see it going the other way. All right, guys, so that was my SEC West predictions. If you're watching on the YouTube, you'll notice that the scenes have changed. And since the segment that you just heard, it has been almost 2 weeks. We actually started recording that, 2 weeks ago. We were going to have it out last week, and we had really bad luck with Wi-Fi, and then Cam moved, and then school started, and so now we're just getting around to it. We've had a lot happen in between then, so not much really has changed our predictions though. But just a little PSA: if you're watching on the YouTube, that's why the settings are different. And this is also 2 weeks later. So I think we left off. I just gave my SEC West predictions. Cam, you're up with the SEC West.
Yeah, and I just rewrote my SEC predictions down just now as we're getting back into this. As all my notes are on paper, and I just brought them up when I packed. But yeah, I'm gonna actually. I know a lot of people I think have been saying this lately, but I do think Alabama is going to return to the top of the SEC this year. I don't think it's going to be because of offensive play. I think it's going to be their defense is actually going to step way up this year. And I also believe their offensive line is going to carry them on offense. I know I just said I don't expect them to be explosive really on offense, and I really don't. I think it's going to be kind of an old school Alabama team, Luke. If you remember them kind of from the early 2010s and actually late
Running
2000s.
backs.
Yeah, where it's going to be heavy run, like very heavy run, in fact, because the quarterback competition is going not well to the point where they haven't really decided on a starter. And although I think they're going to start Jalen Milroe, who we saw last year against Texas A&M, I believe. But all we really know about him is he is probably the best athlete on the field when he is on the field, except that he can't throw. So that's kind of an issue when you are the quarterback. But behind great offensive line, maybe he can just run around kind of and make shit happen. Kind of like Jalen Hurts when he was in his first year there at Alabama. It was kind of similar, to be honest. No offense to Jalen Hurts, first year at Alabama. He developed into a heck of a passer, but he was not very great as a thrower in year one. I think that's probably going to how it's going to be if Jalen Milroe does get the start. And if they go with, I think his name's Ty Simpson, the other kid, the other quarterback. Um, I don't know what it's going to look like. Then it's going to have to take, I think, some really ugly, practically shutouts by the Alabama defense. But I do think they can do it, and that's actually why I have them at the top, is because of their defense. Next, I've got LSU. I think LSU is probably going to win almost every SEC West game except the Bama one. And I think they're actually
Even
going
though
to
it's at
beat
home.
Florida State too, as well, here coming up on the second. I'm going to believe it when I see it with Florida State, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm going to believe it when I see it kind of guy. Then I have Ole Miss, and I just have Ole Miss here, and I think you could maybe even switch them with Texas A&M and maybe even Arkansas when it's all said and done, but it doesn't seem like Arkansas ever finishes in the top three. But these three are kind of interchangeable, I think, for me. But Ole Miss just always seems to win 9 games at least, and then 10 with a bowl, it seems like. And I don't really see that stopping this year with the way Kiffin's recruited and has worked the transfer portal. I don't know how dynamic they're going to be on offense this year. They still have a great running back, so we'll see. But I just have them at 3. At Texas A&M at 4. Uh, I don't know. I feel like they have so much talent, um, and they have a lot of great recruits. But I don't know if they're being developed down in
Yeah.
Aggie land.
They're also
And
missing a
I also
QB.
I've lost my trust with Jimbo, Luke. Jimbo was one of my favorite coaches back in the day, mostly just because he coached the team that Jameis was on when they won the national title. But I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know if he's lost his luster a little bit or if going to the SEC has just really messed him up, but they have not really been very successful at all yet. So we'll see. Arkansas at 5, Auburn at 6. Now, it wouldn't shock me though if Auburn did some weird shit and ended up like in the top 3 somehow, maybe top 4. Um, Although I do think they should have hired Cadillac Williams, but we'll see if
Yeah, Hugh
uh,
Freeze is a weird hire. I'll say that.
he is a weird hire, but I also know it's kind of like the um, Coach Kelly hire. Um, he's just a damn good coach. So sometimes that just wipes out everything else. I mean, he's done it pretty much everywhere. So and he just left a really good run at Liberty. So we'll see. And then I got Mississippi State finishing last. I don't really know where that program is at all in terms of skill guys, in terms of defensive guys. Oh, they probably still have NFLers on their team, but it is the SEC West. I just don't think they're going to do very well. First year without Coach Leach completely.
Rest in
So,
peace.
yeah.
I think that was the exact same order. We had the exact same order. So
Are you serious?
yeah, then you had look at my paper, look at my notes. That's the exact same order that you just said. So I'm glad that we agree on that. Well, no, never mind. LSU and Alabama were flip flopped. I apologize.
Oh, okay. So you have Alabama losing to LSU. Okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say there's no way we had the exact same 2 weeks apart. It's been 14 days since we recorded it. It's the exact same. That would have been. It's still pretty much the same though. All right. Whatever. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. I think our SEC East was a little different though. I'm big on South Carolina. Not a Joe Milton
Shatler.
believer, and not a Graham Mertz believer either. But I think you were believers in both of them. So, but not
I'm
Shatler.
not a
Yeah,
believer. No, 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 no. Let's not get it twisted here. I'm not a Billy Napier Florida believer. I am a Tennessee truther. I I'm not falling for that trick like you did last year. I know what I saw. I know what I saw in the orangest Orange Bowl of all time. Joe Milton played pretty damn good against a good Clemson defense. So I'm gonna say that he can replicate that at least against the subpar SEC East teams, and that should be just enough to at least take second place behind Georgia. So
All right. Well, I do agree. He's not a bad QB, but he's just, I feel like he's a little bit overrated. He's got the arm strength. He's got fantastic arm strength, but that's not all. I mean, you gotta have the playmaking ability, you gotta have the running ability in today's game, and you certainly have to have the accuracy. And I think he lacks in all of those. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll move on here because we're going to go a little bit more in depth with Mizzou at the end. But before we do that, we're not going to list out the standings for every conference. We're just going to do the conference championship. So for every conference, there's two different divisions, except for the Big 12. It's just literally the top two records will play each other in the championship game. So for that reason, I think we start with the Big 12. Who's finishing top two? Who do you got in the championship, Cam? This is an interesting one.
Big 12. I have Texas pretty much running the table after losing to Alabama. I haven't seen. I don't have their schedule memorized, so they might drop another one in there. They're probably gonna beat the hell out of Oklahoma again, and then Brett Venables is probably gonna be on the hot seat after that. But we'll see. But I have Texas in the championship game against K State, and then I just think Texas is going to Texas, and K State's going to win. Now the thing is here with this pick is I've been watching a lot of listening to a lot of college football talk, whether that be podcasts and just on TV after last weekend, because during week 0, during halftime and stuff, they would just talk about the actual teams that are going to mean something this year, and everybody's really hype on Texas, like the players,
Always.
not it's like how lately, Luke, how we always make fun of them during the draft because they get nobody drafted, which is insane because they have so many 4 or 5 star recruits and stuff like that. They don't get anybody drafted.
Yeah, that is
Well,
funny.
this year apparently there's they have NFLers. So maybe we'll see them actually make a jump this year and win it. But for now, I'm going to stick with K State. And another reason why I picked K State is because I love just tweeting out that sicko logo of K State. I love tweeting that out. So I've got that one in my back pocket for when we get to December. So I got K State.
Yeah, I have the exact same thing. I had before today, I had Oklahoma State facing off against K State, and then I gave in. I gave in to the Texas hype, mostly because Quinn Ewers is just really good. I'm a big Quinn Ewers guy, and I think he's going to play very, very good football this year for the Texas team, and their defense is good. And really, the Big 12 is just kind of mid in football this year. There's going to be some fun games because of the offense and stuff, but I mean, Oklahoma State mid, Baylor mid, TCU probably a little bit better than mid, but it's going to be extremely hard to replicate what they did last year. Oklahoma extremely overrated mid, Kansas mid, Iowa State mid, Texas.
But shout out to Trevor. Shout out to Trevor.
Yeah, exactly. But they're still mid. That's actually probably a compliment to them for how they're being ranked in the preseason. Me calling them mid is probably a compliment. Texas Tech probably a little bit better than usual. Them and TCU are going to be in the same tier, probably as Oklahoma State. And
what
then
about UCF
obviously the 4 newcomers.
Cincinnati?
Houston is not
Maybe
good.
Houston.
Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU were all probably going to be about mid in that conference. BYU is probably going to be pretty bad too. But I mean, really, West Virginia is really bad too. I forgot about them. So Texas, it's set up. It's set up for them in the last year that they're in the Big 12 to just run the table.
It is. All right. Who should we move on to?
Big 10.
Big 10. All right. Okay.
Pre-Big 18. It's about to be Big 18.
Oh, shit. I might change this right here, right now, but I don't know the legends and the leaders right off the top of my head. Hold on just a second. Why don't you go first?
Okay. I'm very confident in this one, the Big 10. So obviously the Big 10 is one with divisions, and Iowa State, Michigan, Penn State, and Michigan State are all in the same division. So obviously The big three, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, all going to be competing against each other. I think Michigan comes out on top, though. I think Penn State actually comes in second. I think they finally beat Ohio State. I think they finish ahead of them in the standings, but it doesn't matter when we're predicting the divisions. I think Michigan's going to win that. They got a really good team. And then on the West, it's all the Big Ten West is always one of the most sicko divisions in college football. And Wisconsin has Luke Fickell. They're going to be competing. Illinois with B. Lemma Ball, right? Purdue, they're going to Purdue their way to a 7-5 record, and Iowa. That's my pick. They're going to be facing off against Michigan in the Big Ten championship. Spencer Petras is gone. He's basically Satan to Iowa fans. I mean, he's like Jamarcus Russell, but worse. I mean, he was fat and he was bad, and I mean, if their defense didn't score at least 2 touchdowns in the game, they were going to lose because Spencer Petras could barely drive the ball 15 yards downfield per drive. So their defense is still just as good as they usually are, but their offense, who is it that they got Michigan's old quarterback, McNamara, Cade McNamara.
Cade.
Yep. So he's going to be definitely a serviceable quarterback. He's not spectacular by any means, but you don't need a spectacular guy to win the Big Ten West, especially with the defense that they have. I think they're going to fly under the radar a little bit, and I mean, it's just kind of a sicko pick. So that's why I'm doing it. But Iowa, Michigan, and obviously Michigan wins.
All right. I could see the reason why I had to look back was I couldn't remember if Penn State was in the West or in the East. But they are in the East. So I'm going to stick with what I got. I have Ohio State versus Wisconsin. And to be honest, I don't actually know if Ohio State is going to get to the Big Ten championship by beating Michigan. I don't know if they can beat them, so I don't know why I wrote down Ohio State. So I'm assuming when I was thinking about this that maybe Michigan drops 2 games this year just randomly in the Big Ten. But Ohio State can beat them, but I am a little worried because it is at Michigan. Wisconsin, on the other hand, there is, I guess, if you want to listen to Luke and think about the fact that Cade McNamara might be serviceable. To be honest, Luke, I don't even know if he's really serviceable. Surrounded by the players on Iowa's offense, I don't really know if that makes him serviceable with what's around him. But Wisconsin, I think they will be probably pretty good again this year. Their defense is always good, and they finally have a really, really, really good offensive coordinator, in my opinion. Phil Longo took him from Carolina, was the offensive coordinator at North Carolina for a while. Pretty much got Sam Howell going and got Drake May going. So
What about Trubisky?
I don't know. See, I can't remember if he was there when Trubisky was there. I'm not sure. Personally, I liked Marquise Williams better than Trubisky, but whatever. But yeah, anyway, they have a great offensive coordinator, so things might actually turn around for Wisconsin, but they're probably still going to get whomped in the Big Ten championship by the Ohio State University.
All right. Moving on to ACC, I guess. This is an interesting league. So this is also divisions, and probably the top 2 teams in this division, or top 2 teams in this league, are in the same division. Clemson and Florida State. Clemson has obviously been there for a while now. Florida State, won a national championship with Jameis, and then kind of had a really, really dark period. They ended up firing their coach, but they're back. They're back in full swing, and I am drinking their Kool-Aid hard. I'm not drinking. I'm chugging their Kool-Aid. The media is hyping them up, and I'm buying into it. So I got Florida State taking the Atlantic Division, and then on the coastal side, I mean, this is really just going to be a 3-team race between North Carolina, Miami, and Pittsburgh. Miami, I feel like, is just over. They're going to be overrated every year. So just out of spite for them, I'm saying not them. And then Pittsburgh just doesn't really move the needle for me. But Carolina does have, a top 5 QB or top 5 draft pick really for next year's draft with Drake May. Now their defense is still like really bad, but you can compete offensively and you can win any game. So I have them facing off against Florida State in the ACC championship, and then obviously getting whomped. Shout out to Duke too; they're not bad this year. They're solid.
Yeah, they're not. They're pretty solid last year too. They have a damn good head coach, as much as I hate to say it, and a pretty good quarterback. I have a repeat of last year, and this might just be Homer. Don't get me wrong. This might just be Homer Cam, North Carolina shirt at I don't know if you can see that. North Carolina football decor in the Mizzou apartment, but
Yeah, you should put the helmet on too.
I could put the helmet on. I've been wearing that a little bit more than I probably should over the past week for unforeseen reasons. But UNC versus Clemson is what I've got. The reason why I'm taking Clemson, Luke, is actually because I'm a Will Shipley truther, if you will. He should have went to North Carolina, but he didn't. He's from North Carolina, and he just tears up pretty much any defense he plays against. It seems like he's always going for 100 and 100. The concern is obviously Cade Klubnik, as he kind of shat his pants during against Orange's Orange Bowl of all time against Tennessee. But he did dominate North Carolina in the last ACC title. But the reason why I'm taking Clemson over Florida State is because I'm pretty sure the Clemson-Florida State game, and this could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that game is at Clemson, so that's why I'm taking Clemson. And I'm not going to look.
I think it's the other way. I looked this morning.
If it's at Florida State, no, hypothetically I would change my answer, but I'm not.
It's at Clemson. You're right.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'm going to take Clemson. That's what it came down to. And I just got UNC finally getting over the hump. And is that a dream? Yes. Is that realistic? Not if you've watched what I've watched the last 4 years, but we're still going to go with it. So, yeah.
But you know what? As a fan, if you're not as a college football fan, honestly, if you're not like one of the top 5 to 10 teams in the nation, like you don't really have title hopes, which Carolina doesn't, obviously, all you can ask for is to be entertaining. And North Carolina delivers peak entertainment football on both sides of the ball. So, I mean, as a fan, that's all you can ask for.
That is, that's probably one of the truest things you can say. There wasn't a single game, well, except at the end. There was a couple games where I wanted to just absolutely pull my hair out. But mostly the Clemson game, that was embarrassing. But they play everybody absolutely close. It kind of reminds me of like the Steelers in the NFL. They'll just play down to their opponent no matter what. Like, remember that when the Steelers went like 12-0 to start the season, but everybody's like, this team is fraud, which they were, but they just played down to all of their opponents. North Carolina does that every single year. They never just like take care of business, and when they do it, it's like very shocking. And I expect much of the same this year. I expect my heart rate to be through the roof every single weekend when I am watching them, dangerous levels. But yeah, you're right. They are fun to watch. You can give them that.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that you can't say about Mizzou, but you can say about Carolina. So now the last conference that we're going to preview before we get to, I believe it's Heisman and then the college football playoff, is the Pac-12 and its swan song. There's obviously 4 teams that haven't gone anywhere yet.
Finale.
But, I mean, it's still the last season of the Pac-12. Some really good teams here. I believe this is also a division conference, and no, it's not a division conference. They took that away this year. I forgot about that. I'm going to put you in load data mode. All right, so yeah, I forgot this year they completely dismantled the division, so that's my fault. I said that at the beginning of the segment. That's not true at all. I have Utah versus USC. I have a rematch of last year.
That's what I have, Lucas.
I mean, it's just Utah always finds a way, especially like now that they actually have a good team. They just find a way to get to the title game every year. And then USC has Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. That's literally the only reason I'm putting them up there. Now they're a pretty talented team outside of them, but I mean, it would be a failure if they don't at least get to the championship this year. I would say. Some other teams, I mean, Oregon is going to be good.
Oregon. I was just about to say I could change mine to Oregon versus USC just because that Nike put that giant banner in 23rd Avenue in Manhattan of bodacious Bo Nix just plastered on giant skyscrapers in New York City. I think I'll take Oregon in the Pac-12 finale, but I'm still going to take USC. Great quarterback conference this year. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Penix, Caleb Williams, Cam Rising's back for one last hurrah. Bo Nix,
Oregon State,
DJ
DJ.
Uiagalelei.
Yep.
Shit, I think we might be missing one or two, but
Jaden DeLaura, Arizona, baby.
yeah, he's gotten better. I don't know if I'd put. He's not entirely in that group yet, but he's definitely
Spencer
gotten
Sanders,
better.
Colorado.
Yeah, that's another big one. Yeah, you're right.
Colorado's an interesting team because they're really not that
Very.
good. They're going to be
Oh,
overrated.
they're
Like,
awful.
yeah, their roster is really really bad. But,
But
4 wins
Leon,
maybe. I think they can beat Arizona State, maybe
you think
Stanford
they
at
can
home.
beat TCU week 1?
No chance.
Yeah, I don't think so either, especially since it's at Fort Worth. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
they're
If
getting
they
their ass
do,
kicked that
things that
game.
people are going to be like freaking out.
Oh, that would be that. Nebraska they could win. Colorado State hopefully they'll win because Colorado State sucks. So yeah, I think they'll get 4, maybe 5 wins if they pull an upset, but they're generally don't expect a lot from them this year. I think their over under total is 3 wins, which
Holy,
I mean
that's awful.
I personally would take the over on that, but that I mean that's the expectations for Colorado this year. So don't expect a lot out of them. But yeah, Utah, Oregon State is actually, they got DJ Uiagalelei, but
They're ranked number 18. I
yeah,
saw that
their
in the
roster's
AP
good.
poll and was just shocked.
Yeah, I mean Arizona, I mean they're not going to be competing for the title game, obviously, but I mean they're going to be competitive in the conference this year. I would say. I mean they've been slowly building. I wasn't sure about Jed Fish. I'll keep this short because no one really cares about Arizona, but I wasn't sure about Jed Fish when he was first hired, but he has been improving the team in the roster every single year. I'm excited for the Mississippi State game, which is not this weekend, but next weekend. It's at Mississippi State. If they can win that game, it's like, okay, like the season's on now. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Arizona can finally reach the bowl game this year. That's kind of the expectation for them. And then bigger and better things in the Big 12 next year. But yeah, that's the Pac-12. You got any other thoughts, Cam, before we move on here?
No, it's just got to point out that it's the last one that you'll ever see.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Pac-12 final season.
Well, kind of that you'll see, unless the games are on ESPN, which they have one game on ESPN. You can't watch it, so I mean, enjoy what you
That's
can.
true. Pac-12
So,
network, killer.
yeah, it's like I think last weekend for week 0, USC was playing San Jose State, and it was on the Pac-12 network, and it's like, well, no wonder you guys are dissolving as a conference because you're incompetent.
Why are you gatekeeping the Heisman winner? Why are you gatekeeping them from us?
Because
Can't even watch them.
they are just they're stupid. The management of the Pac-12, I mean, the Big 12, they were getting teams taken from them. Everyone said the Big 12 was going to dissipate. Look what they did. They actually rebounded. They got some teams. They rebuilt themselves into, staying a conference. And the Pac-12 just simply didn't do that. They tore themselves down in every way possible. So, not shout out to them. But let's move on to a national scale here before we get to the Mizzou preview. That'll wrap up the show. Heisman Awards. Cam, what do you have? Who are your top four?
All right. Top four. I threw in a fifth as well. Just
Okay. I'll throw in a
I
fifth.
don't know. It always depends on how many they're going to take. Once again, Homer in here, but it's realistic. It's technically realistic. I have Drake May at number one. Then I have Marvin Harrison Jr. at number two. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking if Marvin Harrison Jr., though, if he makes it into the top two of the Heisman, he's probably going to win it because
Yeah.
that just means that he's having an astronomical season. It's either if you're a wide receiver in the Heisman voting, if you get to New York, I feel like they're probably going to win it because if they don't get to New York, then it's just not. I mean, probably had a great season, but not astronomical like Devonta Smith or like Desmond Howard or whatever. But yeah, at number three, I have Caleb Williams. I think what's going to happen here, Luke, is he's going to kind of get the Bryce Young, Jameis Winston treatment, if you will. And by that, I just mean like he's going to have a great season. But because he won it last year, I just don't think they're going to give it to him 2 years in a row.
Yeah. In order to win it 2 years in a row, which no one has ever done, by the way, no one's ever won multiple Heismans. You really you have to be even better than what you were last year. You have to improve and be that much better than everyone else. Although one interesting stat is that Andrew Luck did finish twice, or he finished second twice in a row. I think that's the closest anyone's gotten to winning the Heisman twice in a row, and he didn't win it once. So I like that stat, though. It's funny. It's a story of his career.
That is crazy. I forgot about that, to be honest. Bo Nix at 4. This is might come as a shock, but I think
Yeah, that
kind of
does.
plays into my Oregon in the finale against USC. I think he'll probably have like a big numbers game against USC that will shoot him up, but yeah, he's just not the best player in the country though. And then I have Blake Corum, running back Michigan. This one's kind of a out there too, but if he stays healthy, they're just going to run the ball a shitload. That way they don't have to throw it with JJ McCarthy as much, and he's probably going to run for like 25 or 30 touchdowns. So that's why I have him up there as well. I guess you could also maybe look. I'll let you go, but one other one that was just sitting on my head was maybe Jordan Travis if Florida State's really that good, but maybe Will Shipley too. But
I'll
see.
get to that in a second. So yeah, I have top 4. I'll throw in an extra 2, similar to what you. Well, did you throw in 2 extra ones?
I had 5, and I don't want to. If you're going to talk about these guys, I don't want to take it away from you.
Yeah, so you had yours in order. I don't have mine in a particular order. I'll maybe give my winner at the end, but you know what? I'll give my winner first. I will go in order. Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman. That might come as a shock, but Jaden Daniels is, in my opinion, a phenomenal quarterback. He almost committed to Mizzou. Remember those rumors from a few years ago? That was kind of a wild time. But he's at LSU, and I'm big on LSU this year. I think they're going to get the 1 seed going into the college football playoff. I mean, honestly, the game this weekend between LSU and Florida State, whoever wins that, in my mind, is a lock for the college football playoff already, which is a wild thing to say considering Florida State would still have to probably beat Clemson. But if they beat LSU, there's no reason why they can't beat Clemson. So yeah, whoever wins that game, definitely in the college football playoff. We'll get to that in a second, though. Jaden Daniels, in order for LSU to get to that level, Jaden Daniels is going to play at a phenomenal level, and I think he's going to take home the Heisman. And then number 2, kind of sticking to the same category here, Jordan Travis. I actually wrote down Travis Hunter at first, and then I realized, wait a second, that's the cornerback for Colorado. So it's not Travis Hunter, it's Jordan Travis for Florida State. I don't know why I confused them. But yeah, Jordan Travis, I think I'm huge on him. He's a huge reason why I'm drinking the Florida State Kool-Aid. Because I think he's really good. I think he's built for this moment. I think he's a big time player. I think he's just a really good leader, and that's huge when it comes to winning football games. So yeah, I mean those 2 guys, I think are going to finish top 2, and then I also have Drake May in the top 3. And then at 4th, this is similar to the Stetson Bennett finish last year, where he finished 4th, and they were kind of just like, well, I mean, you're on the best team, and you have pretty good numbers, so we'll just throw you in. I have JJ McCarthy finishing 4th now. I think he might have a better season than what Stetson Bennett did last year. But I mean, he doesn't really have to do a whole lot for Michigan to just run the table. I mean, he just has to not turn the ball over and, do what he needs to do. And I think he's going to do that. And I think it's going to get him a top 4 finish in the Heisman. And then since you gave 2 extras, I'll give 2 extras as well. Caleb Williams, he's a really good quarterback, but I think, like I just said, you have to take that extra step if you want to win it or even be recognized for a second year in a row. And I don't think he does it. I think he still plays phenomenal, and he's going to be the first pick in the draft. But he's an honorable mention of a guy that I would not be shocked if he was top 4, but not personally in mind. And then another one might be a little shocking. It is actually shocking. Brock Bowers. I think he's going to have probably the greatest tight end season from a college football tight end ever. And I think it's going to launch him into some Heisman talks, although I don't think he'll get the invite to New York just because of what Cam said. If he somehow gets that invite to New York, I mean, he's going to win it. He almost has to win it. So, but yeah, shout out to him. He's going to have a great year. Hopefully the Packers draft him.
We're already back to that. That makes me excited that Luke is already shooting off possible Packers picks as we get into the college football season. That gets me a little excited.
Dude, I've had like 4 tight ends like the past 2 years that I'm like, oh, the Packers should draft this guy, and they just never draft a tight end, and now we have no tight ends. So, I mean, if I was the GM, we would have had Dalvin Cook, we would have had Amon-Ra St. Brown. These are all guys that I was like hard on in the draft. We probably would have had TJ Watt too, because I was mad when we passed on him. So I just make me the GM of the Packers.
There you go.
Draft Brock
Bowers. I know. Wyatt really wanted Darnell Washington really bad, and then the Steelers just kind of stashed him when they took him because Pat Freiermuth is a freaking beast. I love Pat Freiermuth. But in camp, they're saying Darnell is doing stuff that Pat can't. So we'll see how that turns out this year for the Steelers. But yeah.
That's NFL. That's next week, though. I got us on this tangent, though. So.
College football preview.
Yeah, so that's Heisman.
Playoff
the
preview,
last thing, playoff, baby, playoffs.
Let's see.
Playoffs. Yeah, we are talking about playoffs. College football playoffs. We mentioned the swan song of the Pac-12. This is also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the swan song of the 14 playoff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I mean I'm ecstatic for the 12-team playoff, but the 14 playoff was the bridge, that got us to the 12-team playoff. So it's a little bit sentimental. This year would be great to have a 12-team playoff. There's so many teams that I think could win the national championship that would make a 12-team playoff so exciting. But it's only 4, and my top 4. I'm not even going to explain them. I'm just going to run with it. I have LSU at 1, Michigan 2, Georgia at 3, Florida State at 4. Now, that's because I have LSU beating Georgia in the SEC championship game. That's why Georgia's at 3. That might be a shock to some people, but I'm big on LSU. And
I'm gonna go
Georgia's
with
probably due for a slip up. So
I can't believe how high you are on LSU. I'm assuming it's just off of Jaden Daniels mixed with Coach Kelly.
And the lore of LSU. When LSU's good, college football is awesome. Kind of like Florida State. That's why I'm so big on both of
them. I have Georgia as the 1 seed, and this might be interesting. I have Michigan as the 4 seed, because they lost to Ohio State. Ohio State as the 2 seed and USC as the 3 seed, and Ohio State pummels USC. Georgia beats Michigan, Bagley, and then we actually get a good national championship, Georgia, Ohio State. Opposite of what happened last year, 2 great semifinals and then an awful final. But Georgia, Ohio State, I'm down to see that any year. And one thing to point out about Georgia, Ohio State, which could make this prediction sound really, really dumb, Carson Beck was just named the starter for Georgia, and Kyle McCord was just named the starter for Ohio State. But Ohio State is going to split reps at least between like the first 2 games between him and Devin Brown. So 2 first-year quarterbacks, no matter what, in my national title. And I got Georgia. 3-peat. Michael Jordan style. So yeah.
All right. That would certainly be like just, I mean, 3-peat. I don't even, has Alabama 3-peated?
I don't believe so.
I don't think
They've
so either.
repeated a couple of times. They've gone 3 out of 4, I think. They've never 3-peated that I know of. Not in our lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't give my championship or anything, so I guess I better go back and do that. So yeah, I guess I have a rematch of LSU and Florida State in the semifinal.
Jesus.
That's assuming that LSU wins every single game, and Florida State, after they lose to LSU on Sunday, they win every single game, and then they rematch. And I think I kind of have to put LSU ahead of that, just because of SEC, and then Georgia, Michigan, in the 2 and 3. And this is, I'm making this up on the spot. I have no idea. That would just be an all-time game. I think that would, Georgia, Michigan. Oh man, I want to put Michigan just for the funness of it, but they're Big Ten. I hate putting the Big Ten anywhere in the playoffs in basketball or football. They can't win. So I'll put Georgia in the championship and another rematch, LSU versus Georgia, rematch of the SEC championship game. And you know what? I'll go LSU. Why not? Like LSU run the table, baby. 14-0.
That'd be 15, buddy.
Oh yeah, it would be 15. Sorry, I forget that sometimes. 15-0. 15-0 LSU. Brian Kelly. He wins finally.
He does. I hate it, but he does.
God, I don't feel confident in that. But sometimes, you know what? You got to go out on a limb. Everyone's picking Georgia. Some people are picking Bama. A lot of people are picking Michigan. LSU. Why not? Beat Georgia twice. That would be insane. Now that I'm
would
thinking
be
about
wild.
That
that's a tough thing to do.
yeah.
It's kind of like when Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC title game a few years ago, and then Georgia was able to figure it out and beat them in the national title. It's hard to beat a team. It's hard to beat a team twice. We always say that. I think it's really hard to beat a team twice when it's 2 really, really good teams. So yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to see.
I have LSU surviving 2 rematches in the playoffs.
Yeah, Georgia
That's
and
hard
Florida
to do.
State. That is tough to do. Then they would deserve to be the champ. That's for sure.
So SEC wins again.
We'll break down Mizzou here, and that will pretty much wrap up the college football preview show.
I do want to do one thing. We did this on last year's show, where we had betting locks. You didn't do it, but I do have a few that I want to get off. I'm not really going to explain them. I'm just going to run through them. Michigan over 10.5. That just seems like a lock in the Big Ten. They'll probably get that before the playoffs. NC State over 6.5. They're not that good this year, but they're better than that. Wisconsin under 9. I think that's just a really high number for Wisconsin, especially in the Big Ten. Like 9 wins is a lot of wins. Colorado over 3. Kent State over 2.5. Like they suck, but they're not. I mean, Maction happens. We forget about that. That's one of the great things about college football. And then Oklahoma. This might be my lock. Oklahoma under 9.5. Just they're not. I'm not a Venables guy. I'll be honest. And then probably Ole Miss over 7.5 too. I feel like they get at least 8 or 9 wins. They have to at least.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
those are my
I,
locks.
I like both that Ole Miss and Oklahoma one. Those are good ones for sure.
All right, Mizzou, baby.
All right, I'll just dive into it. So kickoff is tomorrow.
Yep.
Week
Well,
one.
tonight.
Oh yeah, listening to this on Thursday. Um, South Dakota at Mizzou. Um, I think what's gonna happen here is we might see a fast, explosive start, and then it'll slow down because it just seems like South Dakota is not a very they're not a top tier FCS school. They're just not. They're not South Dakota State or NDSU
Hey, hey,
or
hey, hey. Hey, let's respect them a little bit, okay? When Kansas beat them 2 years ago, they rushed the field. So they have to be a big school, right? To rush the field when you beat them.
South Dakota.
Yeah. Don't you remember that 2 years ago?
I
Kansas beat
guess it
them.
is a state
They beat them by
school.
3 points. They rushed the field. That means they have to be
Well,
a
that's
good team, right?
Kansas. I mean, that's a different
Okay.
topic. But
But
I've got
surely,
Mizzou. I think
surely.
it'll probably be like 30-10, maybe,
All right.
something like that. I think they'll score quite a few touchdowns in the first half and be pretty stagnant at the end. So we'll see.
Probably.
I hope it's not like
You're going to
that.
be
But
reporting from that game, though, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right. And if we win, are we rushing the field?
And no, we're not rushing the field against
Oh,
South
okay.
Dakota.
Are Kansas and South Dakota rivals? Is that why they rush the field against them?
I think Kansas is just so ass that when they finally get a win, that they feel the need to rush the field because it had been so long since their last W. But
I just remember that it was rushing the field against an FCS team after you win by like 3 points. It's
it is wild.
wild.
But I also
That's
remember in Coastal Carolina. I can't remember if they were. I think they were still FCS. They beat Kansas at Kansas, and they like went into the locker room and got like a sludge hammer, and it was just this giant rock that had a Jayhawk on it. And they go rock, chalk, Jayhawk, and the player just slams the sledgehammer into the giant rock and smashes it all over the locker room. That's a good video. I could pull that up for you later. But yeah, all right. So 1-0 against South Dakota, and then we play Mid Tennessee State. I have a W there as well.
hopefully.
And so I want to point this out because we've talked about this before. I think we talked about this with Brooke too. Mizzou has a great opportunity to be 5-0 going into the LSU game. But for that to happen, they play Kansas State. Kansas State plays at Mizzou. I'm not going to lie, Luke. Right now, I have this one chalked up as an L. Once again, 2 years in a row. So 2-1. Memphis at Mizzou at the Dome. I'll be there for that as well. I've got Mizzou in a close, ugly game, like close, like you're like, Jesus, why is this game so close? But it turns out Memphis is actually just a good team. So that you'll see that later on in the
Yeah,
season.
before we move on to conference games, I actually have the opposite of you there. I have us beating Kansas State at home, right? Huge win for us. Kansas State is, ranked high. They're a Big 12 favorite. Obviously, like we just have them winning the Big 12. I think we beat them. But then I think we'd lose to Memphis the next week at the neutral site. I think we just get a little bit too high for our britches. We're rolling high and everyone's like, oh, this team can do good. And then Memphis we overlook Memphis. That's my thing. I think that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I really hope we don't because that's a big opportunity for recruiting for Mizzou in terms of showcasing at the Lou. So yeah, I hope they don't. But yeah, as Luke just said, now we jump into conference play, and by my count, we're 3-1 right now at
Yep.
Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Mizzou's going to win this game, I believe, once again. Watched Vanderbilt versus Hawaii. They actually look competent on offense. But I actually think this will be a defensive slugfest that Mizzou will just so happen to win. And I'm going to chalk this one up to the fact that Vanderbilt hasn't finished building their stadium. And Mizzou's going to get out of there with the win. 4-1 on the year.
That's a month away. They have a month of building the stadium, right?
They're not going to finish it, Luke. They're just not. There's other shit going on in Nashville. Those are probably union workers that's like their second task. They're not working on that stadium during the day, I feel like. So I'm going to take Mizzou in that one. And then LSU at Mizzou, whether they're 5-0, 3-2, or 4-1 going into this game, this is going to be like the biggest game at Mizzou. I guess since Georgia at Mizzou, but Mizzou had no intention or no hope of winning that game against Georgia last year. But of
We
course, we
almost
were
did.
in it to the very end. But because that's just Mizzou
God,
being Mizzou. But
that sucks that we lost that game. That would have been probably
it
the
really did.
biggest win in Mizzou history if we would have won
Yes.
that game. And
Well, Oklahoma in like 2010, but yeah,
I don't
or
know that. It would have
2007.
been
I can't
huge for
remember.
recruiting too.
But to put it nicely, we're going to lose to LSU. Mizzou at Kentucky. I can't remember the last time we won at Kentucky. I think it was in 2013 or 14.
Never
I think
won
we're
at
going to do it
Kentucky.
this year. And that may come as a shock but I just don't think Kentucky's very good this year. I just don't think they have that many guys. So unless Mizzou is like really injured or Kentucky is playing a wide receiver at quarterback, I think we'll win this game. Now, if
Devin
Kentucky's
Leary.
playing a fast wide
You forget
receiver with gloves on and they only run like read option and speed triple option and jet option, then I think Mizzou might lose. But hopefully they don't have a wide receiver playing at quarterback that game.
Devin Leary.
South
You forget
Carolina
about
at
that.
Mizzou.
You forget about that. Kentucky has Devin Leary.
I'm not worried about Devin Leary.
Okay, me either. I actually have them losing that game though. We've never beat. I think I just looked this up the other day. Never won at Kentucky, and we haven't beat Kentucky in the Mark Stoops era. Or Mark Stoops, right?
I thought we did or maybe it was at home, but I thought we beat them either in the 2012-2013 season or the 2013-2014 season.
Kentucky in football. Doing some research here.
Mid-show research, no big deal.
So this is since the football history versus University of Kentucky since 1904. We have 5 wins against them. Now let's just see. So in 1904 we won 37-6. How about that?
There we go.
So the last time we beat them, we have beat them in the Mark Stoops era, 20-10. We won in 2020. I wonder if that was the Barry Odom era. Maybe the first year of Drink. I don't know. Lexington, 2013. That's our only win in Lexington.
There it is.
We are otherwise 1, 2, 3, 4. We're 1-5 in Lexington.
Yeah,
all time.
It's pretty bad. But the next game, South Carolina at Mizzou. This is extremely optimistic because South Carolina does look good this year. But I just feel like we always have their number, like always.
Yep.
Like the only game that we've lost to South Carolina, I think, is I think there's maybe 2 or 3, but the Jadeveon Clowney game when we missed the extra point, Andrew Baggett. Be careful the letter that you put in front of his name. Andrew Baggett missed the extra point there. But
what letter are you talking about, Cam?
I'm just saying where I'm from, there have been some people that have replaced the letter B with a certain letter after that missed kick. You have to leave that up to the imagination of the Missourians.
Okay, well,
I'm sure they can figure
I'm just saying
out.
because there is a guy with a similar last name on the Patriots, and his name I think it's an F that it starts with.
Oh, did he go to Navy by any chance?
Yeah, he did. It's a very similar sounding name, but it just starts with an F, and I was just wondering if that was the letter you were thinking of.
Yeah, I would. If you know
What's
what
wrong
player
about
we're
that?
talking about, then yes, I will give you the hint. It is the same letter as that guy. But moving on, I do think we're going to win that game.
I do too. I like what you said that we just kind of we have their number. But I mean, Kentucky has.
I think we're better at South Carolina than we are at home against South Carolina. But
Well,
This
that
one's
could
at
be.
home. I just think Tyron Hopper and company is going to get after Shatler, and we're going to get a dub. I don't think South Carolina's defense is that good. I think they have a really good cornerback, but that's about it. So
Yeah.
they always have one really good cornerback. Shout out like J.C. Horn and whatnot. But
I mean, like you said, we tend to be better there. I mean, Columbia just kind of feels like Columbia, I guess.
yeah,
Um,
I guess so. Um, and then moving on, the last 4 games is a tough stretch. Mizzou at Georgia, L.
yeah.
Tennessee at Mizzou, L. Not even going to go into depth about these, although maybe we could possibly beat Tennessee if Luke is right about Milton and Tennessee, but I'm a Tennessee truther, so
I
as of
have
right
it as a
now,
win.
L.
I have
Florida
us
at
beating
Mizzou.
Tennessee will be beaten. I
Florida at
think
Mizzou, senior night, W. We're going to win
yes,
on senior
definitely,
night.
definitely.
And Mizzou at Arkansas. This one really hurts to say because I feel like we always beat them. KJ Jefferson's going to have an unreal game on his final game, and we're going to lose. So we're going to go 7-5 regular season, and I think we're going to win our bowl game 8-5, and they're going to keep drink around, which I'm fine with because the recruiting class is looking good right now. So
Yeah,
they
that's
just got
true.
to keep going.
I don't know if we talked about it, but we did land the number 3 player in the class of 2024. The number 1
Yeah,
offensive player, I believe.
no defensive.
Yes, yeah, defensive. Sorry.
I don't know
Um,
how to say his first name, but
he's a lineman.
Nawanieri Williams, something like that.
Yeah, he's going to be a beast. That's pretty sweet. I don't know if you saw the video of. I mean, you probably did with Eli Drinkwitz, like going nuts when they got him. That's
Yeah, when
pretty
he just
cool to
had a
see.
bat,
Yeah,
he's just
yeah,
holding a baseball bat. Yeah.
yeah. And he like jumps
All
in
right.
the arms of his other coach, which is kind of a bad look for a football head coach. But I mean, it
Nah,
is what it is.
it's fine. It's
So
just
I
guys
also
being dudes, really.
I also have them going 7-5. Obviously we talked about Kansas State and Memphis with the flip flop. You have us losing to Tennessee. I have us winning, but Kentucky is flip flopped. So, I mean, it comes out even. Tennessee having that as a win is wishful thinking, I think. So realistically, I probably have them at 6-6 again, but 7-5. And then bowl game, I don't know. It depends on who we play. I can't confidently say we win that or not. Um, but I think overall it's just another mid season, and doesn't move the needle for drink with me. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I know that you're kind of a drink believer. And when Brooke
I
came on,
am. Come drink with us.
she said that she needs to see more from him, but she thinks he is the guy right now. I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the guy they post up in the locker room to say, "Hey, look, this guy doesn't believe in us." I'll do it. I don't think he's the guy. He does have great recruiting skills. Obviously, we've seen that. He really has hit the Missouri area really hard in recruiting, but I mean, if it has to translate to wins at some point. This is a big year. Um,
Well,
you know,
his best recruiting class is juniors this year. So
yeah,
now's the time. If you
yeah.
ask me, 8-5 in this era of college football, I feel like that's gonna be good enough to stay around. It should
Well,
be
one
if
more
you
year,
ask
yeah,
me.
yeah. I
It
think
really
one
should
more
be if
year,
you ask me.
but I'm talking about like for a while. Like, is he the guy? I don't think they fire him after this year, just based on that they gave him a contract extension last year. But he's just not going to be the guy to lead us back to the Gary Pinkel years. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to get back to SEC championship tier. We want to get back to, occasionally being in the national championship talk and probably in the college football playoff when it's 12 teams. We want to be there. That's our goal, right? I don't think Drink's the guy. His coaching skills, I think, lack severely. I don't. I mean, his offense is what we brought him here to do, and I mean, that's the worst part of our team is our offense. Um, our scheme is not really. I mean, we complained about the scheme all year last year. I mean, granted, Brady Cook was hurt.
Okay,
But
but can you at least have some optimism? Like, let's be happy that at least in a few weeks we can complain about the scheme. Let's be happy about that. Let's just get past the fact that Drake's not the guy in your eyes. Let's just get to the season and let's just enjoy it a little bit. You're kind of Debbie Downing right now.
okay, You know what? I'll tell you what needs to be done, though, to change my mind on Drink, because it is possible. He's not, I mean, right now, I'm pretty set in my ways. But this year, if they go 8-4 in the regular season and win the bowl game, he buys another year in my eyes. Now, he still has to prove it next year and get even better. Probably 10 wins. But he does that. Obviously, Georgia's a loss. LSU's a loss. I'm not going to be mad if they lose those games. Those teams are obviously better. Tennessee, Kansas State, or Kentucky, two of the losses, they got to have some type of win that moves the needle, though. South Carolina could move the needle, but probably not. Kansas State will, and Tennessee will. And I guess maybe you could say Kentucky will too. Those are the games that move the needle. Arkansas would be huge. We kind of own Arkansas in these recent years. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. That's a big win. Maybe we'll have to do prove it games. Remember how we did prove it games last year, like the toss up ones? I think Kansas State is that for me. That's a winnable game, but tough. Same thing with Tennessee. I'd almost put Memphis in the prove it tier too. They're kind of on our same level.
They're
and
good.
And it's a neutral site game. So, and I'll put Kentucky and Arkansas in there as well. I think that brings it at 5 prove it games. So Georgia and LSU are losses. South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, Vanderbilt are all wins. If we lose one of those games, yikes. And I'll even put Florida in that category. We need to beat Florida on senior night. That's a must. You have to do that. South Carolina, I think, should be a win, but they're not a bad team either. So, yeah, prove it games for me. That's it. Those are my prove it games. I need at least half those games to be won to move the needle in my eyes.
All right. Well, I think that's college football.
Yep. I think we're going to be at about a minute or an hour 15. So, yeah, a lot's happened, though, in the last 2 weeks since, we interviewed Brooke on the show. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened. We might actually do like a 30-minute episode or something that comes out beginning of next week. It's in discussion, not a final thing yet. But, yeah, everyone go enjoy the college football season this year. We got week 1 this week. LSU Florida State is definitely the game of the week. That's on Sunday night. Mizzou plays tonight, Thursday at South Dakota, like Cam mentioned. He will be there. He will be reporting live from Faroe Field.
I'll be wearing my Dalen Carnell jersey.
Shout out Dalen Carnell. And next week, NFL preview. NFL's here, baby. So get prepared for that, and we'll see you then.